DC Rebirth is firing on all cylinders, but let's take a look at what I feel is the best of the best from what they've had to offer. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This weekly one-shot is all about DC Rebirth, and what I think are the best comics to come out of that entire crossover event. We've got to remember that this is a continuation of the New 52 universe, and Rebirth is really a storyline that's going to be kind of coalescing over the next 2 years, and these books are really an indication of where these new creative teams are going. However, that doesn't mean there aren't standouts and superstars amongst the group. So the first thing that I have to say is that there are very obvious choices that are going to be on this list, and we'll start out with one of the most obvious, and that is going to be Superman. So Superman is a book that a lot of people really wrote off simply because the New 52 Superman was, let's say, less than stellar. It didn't really hit its stride until Superman was dying, and that was primarily due to Peter J. Tomasi's writing in the Final Days of Superman arc. And that's what we got for this first 6 to 7 issue run. Peter J. Tomasi writing Superman as an excellent character, basically hearkening back to the olden times. We've got his mentorship of his son Jonathan and this very caring and condensed situation that's telling a very compartmentalized and intimate story, which is one of the best parts about the book. The next book that we have to talk about is Batman, and the reason that I'm picking Batman as one of the best books is not necessarily because it is better than the New 52 version in any way. However, I have picked Batman simply because the writing style is such a differentiator. It's so different than what Scott Snyder was doing in the previous run that it has to be considered on its own and really taken into account. If you take a look at what Tom King's done in the first few issues, he's really established a different character for Bruce Wayne and Batman altogether. He's created a much more cold, calculating, and tactical kind of Batman, which is excellent, and I really appreciate that. Plus, he's added some great comic relief with this entire Alfred character. He's not really utilizing Duke too much, which is totally okay, and he's introduced 2 new characters and hasn't been afraid to kill one of them off. It's overall a really good arc, and definitely something I recommend people pick up. Another big member of the Trinity is going to be Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman's book is unique simply because it's telling 2 different stories at the same time. Alternating between odd and even issues, we have both the Year 1 origin story of Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, and then we also have the current telling of Wonder Woman's story, where she has been deceived, lied to, and is seeking out the truth. So we get to see how she ended up in the world of man and how her entire relationship with humans really kind of came to be, and then we get to see where she is now as a person and a character moving forward, trying to discover who she really is and why she's in the situation she is now. However, if you want to find something furious and fast, you're going to have to go to the Flash book. And The Flash is amazing simply because it's telling one of the longest original story arcs for the entirety of DC Rebirth. It's up to 8 issues without any real conclusion to the first arc, and that's completely fine because the development of the characters and the entire situation has been nothing less than stellar. The art itself is very good, but the introduction of Godspeed, which was teased in the Rebirth issue, in Rebirth itself, took 6 to 7 issues. Of course, you had an inkling who it was to begin with, but Joshua Williamson definitely teases out the character and makes for very good establishing moments. He establishes the new Wally West. He establishes Barry Allen. He gives you a sense of responsibility for what Barry has to do, and there's a lot of justification in what everyone's doing, including Godspeed. It's definitely a book to pick up and read if you want to get a great characterization, and to be honest, Godspeed, probably one of the coolest looking villains that's been in a Flash book in quite a long time. Next we'll head over to Green Arrow, written by Ben Percy, and the reason I like this is because it was very unexpected. I wasn't really going into Green Arrow with great expectations, but I came out with a very enjoyable read, which is telling me all about Oliver Queen, both as a very, out there liberal kind of person, but also as the internal character he is and what his sense of responsibilities and duty to the city of Seattle is. It's very enjoyable. The art has been very nice. I'm really liking the book as an entire package, and it's a much bigger departure from the kind of grim and gritty TV show than what I was expecting, and it's all the more enjoyable because of it. I also like the inclusion of Black Canary and Emmy Queen, and those are very good, likable characters. And yeah, it's just a really fun book that's been developing very well, and I can't really recommend it enough for people. Another book that's really been a surprise for me is Deathstroke. So, Deathstroke is basically a bad story about a bad guy doing bad things. And I mean bad story in the fact that he's going around murdering and killing, and it's just like, it's not for nice people. And it's interesting because I never really found myself in a situation where I would want that kind of story, but I realized later on, Christopher Priest is a great writer and giving a great story to Slade Wilson, who's unapologetically an asshole. It's a book that I wasn't really expecting to like at all, and that I was really rejecting after the first Rebirth issue, but that has definitely grown on me, and one that I'm probably going to be picking up for quite a while. Now that we've kind of covered all the main books, there are two books that I'm really surprised at that I wasn't really expecting. Usually books that, deal with a character but aren't necessarily the main title don't really have a whole heck of a lot to offer. However, that's not true this time with DC Rebirth. Action Comics is definitely putting on one of the best shows in superherodom right now. I mean, the spectacle that's going on in Action Comics and through the first story arc, they've brought back legacy characters, there's just absolute destruction and chaos, there's responsibility, there's the inclusion of multiple people, multiple characters, and it ties into the DC Rebirth event overall. It's a book that you can't really miss simply because it shows Superman being the most Superman-esque, not necessarily the kind of condensed and tight package that's in the Superman book where he's more of a father figure and a much smaller story. This is Superman on a grand-ass scale, and it's great. Highly recommend picking up Action Comics. But the top spot definitely goes to Detective. James Tynion IV has been doing a great job and wrote it was a stunning work for the first arc, which is, the life and death of the Batman. And, God, just getting to the conclusion of that arc and how it ties into the greater scope of things is amazing, but the key isn't necessarily his treatment of Batman in a Bat book. Detective Comics is definitely a team-oriented title. You've got great developments for Batwoman, Red Robin's Tim Drake, Spoiler, Orphan, Clayface, and even the ancillary characters around there. Batman plays a minor role, ends up getting captured and needs to be rescued by this new Bat family, and it's all about the strengths of those individual characters and how they connect to each other. I can't really say enough good things about what's going on in Detective Comics right now, and I can't wait for most people to read it because they're going to understand how good it is as much as I do. So those are my must-read books from DC Rebirth, but I want to know what you guys think are the top titles to get, so hit me up in the comments down below and let me know what those are. As always, if you like what you see, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe right there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.